Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, with the country's power cuts persisting, some municipalities are making effort to protect their infrastructure. The city of Cape Town, for instance, has approved a budget increase to upgrade and protect the city's sewage system from blackouts. You remember that the city has had to close some of its beaches recently due to sewage spillage. It's expected the budget increase will be ramped up to 400 million rand next year and 500 million rand in 2025. For more on this, we're joined now by Cape Town Mayor Geordin Hill-Lewis. Mr. Hill-Lewis, thank you very much for your time here on ENCA. You seem to be, that city that is always making a plan to make sure that life is a bit easier for the people of Cape Town. Just tell me, when it's stage 6, for instance, how are you able to avoid that? Because that's the worst stage so far.
Well, it's really nice to be with you, and I really loved your previous interview. I will try not to quibble over the meaning of a comment. But to talk about serious matters of load shedding, the city is blessed with the Steenbras pumped hydro storage scheme. We use that very effectively to protect residents in our city from always one stage, but sometimes we are also able to do 2 stages of protection. So at the moment, if the country's on stage 6, we're usually on stage 5 and occasionally on stage 4. And that's because we maintain that power station really well. It's a very old power station. It's more than 40 years old, like most of South Africa's power stations. But it is beautifully maintained. It doesn't break down, and when it needs some TLC, we give it what it needs. And that's why it is still working perfectly and serving the residents of our city so well, unlike so many of our power stations around the country, that's why we have load shedding, because so many of our power stations are broken.
Tell me about the 7-fold budget and how this will eventually and hopefully end load shedding for the people living in the city of Cape Town.
So, firstly, this budget is mainly aimed at protecting our infrastructure from the effects of load shedding. Our infrastructure is taking a beating, like infrastructure around the country. I really feel for mayors everywhere, because water treatment plants, water purification plants, sewage pump stations, sewage treatment works, they all need power constantly. They cannot ever be without power. And in Cape Town, we've got 487 sewer pump stations. We have to buy hundreds of generators. That requires literally millions of liters of diesel. This comes at enormous cost to the public. And when this stuff breaks down, when there aren't generators in place, or where the generators fail, then you get sewer spills like we had at some of our beaches over December.
Yeah.
And so we've just a few moments ago finished approving our adjustment budget, which includes about 100 million rand for more diesel. No, in fact, 132 million rand for more diesel for generators, hundreds of new generators, 110 new generators by June. And that is why you're seeing these huge budget numbers trying to protect our infrastructure from the consequences of this devastating blackouts.
But also, the fact that, Mr. Hill-Lewis, the fact that municipalities and, different government departments have to now redirect their budget. There were obviously very important things that you were supposed to do with this money, and now suddenly you have to redirect it to sorting out Eskom's problems. I'm sure that also has been a headache.
Exactly right. That's on the money. I would much rather, there are lots and lots of other things I would rather spend 132 million rand on than diesel. But that's where we are. We have to protect our infrastructure. We have to stop our basic water delivery and sewer delivery from falling over. So we have to spend it. It's not really optional anymore. And that is why we are just so determined to stop load shedding as soon as we can, and why we're moving so quickly to buy independent power. It's obviously for the public. We want our economy to grow. We want people to be businesses to be out of this load shedding. But it also will stop us having to spend public money, hundreds of millions of public money, on all of this diesel and generators.
And I guess it's about priorities, right? Looking at the fact that without power, there's no economy. Without the economy, there are no jobs. So you have to redirect the budget anyway, because you have to prioritize this.
100% right. And as far as basic services go, you can't have your water treatment plants, for example, your water purification plants switching off. That's just not possible. It's not thinkable. So whether it takes 20 million or 30 million in diesel, One of our biggest water treatment plant costs about R1 million a day, just to give you an idea. R1 million a day in diesel.
That's 7 million rand a week.
So, yeah, in diesel costs. But how can, people can't be without fresh water? So you have no option. So this is the kind of impact that load shedding is having on local government and on public finances around the country.
And Mr. Hill-Lewis, in terms of how you performed as a city in December, Cape Town is one of those tourist destinations. Did this affect you in any way, or did you do well? This was the first time that South Africans and international visitors were able to move around after those hard lockdowns and partial lockdowns in the previous 2 years. Did the load shedding and the fact that you had to close some beaches affect you at all?
No, we had a wonderful season. I'm really grateful for that. Our visitor numbers were back at 96% of pre-COVID levels. So just off our previous highs. And we know that now in January and February is actually January is actually Cape Town's peak season for international visitors. So I think we're having a wonderful season. We only there was only one beach closure in full. All the others were partial closures, and usually only for 24 or 48 hours while we cleaned up the spill. So these spills are short term, and they result either from pump stations that don't yet have generators, or where they do have generators in some cases, and the generators fail. They don't switch on when they're supposed to. So we are now going one by one through all of those pump stations, checking that either all of them have generators, and where they have them, that they are working properly, that they're serviced, that they're full, those kind of things, and so that we prevent that from happening again.
All right. Cape Town Mayor, Mr. Geordin Hill-Lewis, thank you very much for your time here on ENCA.